This video, we're going to talk about paths and clipping paths. We're going to use these tools right here, which should be very familiar to you. These are your vector tools. We've used them in Illustrator, and we're going to use these tools to draw paths. The first one, the shape tool, if we go ahead and I'm just going to go ahead and select my oval tool. Notice how my options bar changes to, your fill and your stroke and all of that. Familiar palette. As soon as I come into my artboard, notice what happens on my layers palette. I'm going to go ahead and draw an oval, and it's going to throw that on a new layer right here. And once I have drawn this, if I want to manipulate this, I can go ahead and pick up my white arrow, select my anchor point, and start manipulating. And I'm going to get this dialog box. It's going to convert this into a path. You say yes. And now you can continue to manipulate this any which way you want. You have your delete anchor point, add anchor point, convert anchor point tool. You can go ahead and customize this any which way you need to do. And take your time, develop your shape. Nice thing is it's all paths and points. It's vector. It'll maintain crisp edges, and you can keep working with this. The second one that I want to talk to you about, this is your vector shape layer mask really, is the straightforward path. And I'm going to go ahead and delete this. See how this is all a new layer? Before I do that, I do want to show you what's happening in your paths palette. If you don't have your paths palette already up, toggled with your layers palette, go ahead and bring it up. But here it is. You will see this information is contained in here, and you can save this if you need to. So going back to your layers palette, I'm going to go ahead and delete this completely. And now draw a straightforward path. We're going to use that path to create a selection. So I'm going to go ahead and use the pen tool and, just as we always do, close my shape and give myself a path. Notice what happened in my layers palette. Exactly nothing. I did not get a new layer. It's just right here. That's it. And if I click away from it, it's there, but if I click away, it doesn't really help me, right? It does. Let's look at our paths palette. We've got a working path. Now this is going to be right here. If you save this path, you can keep tweaking this to customize and to manipulate your selection. So first thing you would want to do is go under here in this drop down and save path. It calls it path 1. You can call it anything else. I'll just leave it path 1 for now. You can have several paths saved and it will save with your file, but you can only work on one path at a time. I'm going to go ahead and save this. Now that you've got it saved, you can come in here and start manipulating this. Give yourself your anchor points, find your anchor points, your handlebars, add anchor point, delete anchor point. Give yourself hard edges if you need to with the convert anchor point tool. And once you've got a selection going close to what you want, you can keep manipulating it. You can go ahead and drag this to the bottom of your layers palette. And this third icon here at the bottom, this one right here, drag it on top of that and let go. What happens? It is now a selection. I've got my marching ants. I can still come in here and work on this. If I go away from this, come back to this, come back to my paths, I can still manipulate the same selection. Notice how my same tools come up. I can keep manipulating it. drag it down to that same little third icon, and my selection will adapt to the changes I made. Now, why do I want to do this? Selections are a big part of your work in Photoshop. You want to have good, clean selections. And if you've been working with, as I'm sure you have, with the lasso tool, with the selection tools, it can get frustrating at times when you've drawn a selection and say you decide to add to that selection, and then you subtract from that selection, you happen to click away, and it's gone. So you could have done a lot of work and the selection goes away. In this case, it looks like my selection is gone. I don't see it anywhere, but I can go ahead and go to my paths palette, select that path, and there you go. It's back there. I can keep manipulating it. So this is always going to be saved with your file. You can have several paths going. You can keep converting them into selections, manipulating them further, and as long as you've got it saved, you're good to go. You can just, your paths are permanent and you can tweak forever, versus selections using your lasso tool and all of these quick selections will go away. They're not permanent.